What is the most wholesome thing your supposed other said or did? I am a very hairy woman. This is partly due to my ethnicity, but on top of that I have PCOS, a side effect of which is excessive body hair. So my whole post-puberty life has kind of been this battle against an ever-surging tide of thick, black curlies from my eyebrows all the way down to my toes. I used to be pretty diligent about keeping up with my hair removal regimen, but in recent years it's become less important to me to keep up with that. I still wax my mustache and stuff, but the rest of my body I pretty much just let go unless I know I'm going to be around a bunch of people in a swimsuit or something like that. Anyway, my boyfriend has always reassured me that he doesn't care that much if I shave or wax, but I still felt a little self-conscious about it around him. Last winter, I was unwinding after an exhausting day and decided to take a hot bath. When BF came home, I was still in the tub reading. We started talking about our days and he paused to tell me how sexy I looked right then. I laughed and said, "Yeah, right, in all my hairy glory." He said, "Hell yeah, you're my sexy wolf girl." I know that's a little stupid thing, but something about him saying that made me feel more loved and accepted than I ever have with anyone. I've always been self-conscious about my body, and particularly about how hairy I am, so hearing that he found me sexy, hair and all, was a really incredible moment for me. Smiley face. I had surgery last week. It wasn't a big deal, just some laparoscopy and so. He took the whole week off to take care of me. Then when on Sunday I was still feeling weak, he convinced me to go to the doctor to check and took the next week off too to avoid leaving me alone in the house. He has been 2 weeks cooking, cleaning, taking care of the dog, listening to me complaining, all with a smile. I feel very loved. Wanted a third date after me telling him about my bipolar 2 and general anxiety diagnoses. 5.5 years later, we are engaged, living in our house together, and expecting our little one in a month. We would have been married but COVID-19 made us postpone, like most weddings. Knowing that he wanted to know the real me and not just run because of something I was literally born with made my world that next day when he asked to see me again. He sees something in me even I can't see sometimes. My so's dad was recently diagnosed with lung cancer and decided to go through chemotherapy treatment. So's parents live 3-hour drive from us, so he asked me to quit my job and training and leave my life behind to go with him. And I did. The other night, after 2 months of being here, his dad kicked off with me in the next room saying he's uncomfortable with a member outside of the family being in his house during such a time. My so stuck up for me and said, "Well, unfortunately she's my partner and we come as a pair, so if you want her to go, then I'm going with her." My heart swelled right there and then. This is the man I'm going to marry. His meal at dinner came with bread and he gave me his bread as it is my favorite food. My ex always made fun of me for liking bread. This was a very nice moment. All for some damn glutinous carbs. I was having a really bad night. Like wanting to just give up. And he said everyone deserves the best. But the best is different for everyone. To me, there is no better than you. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me and I wouldn't trade you or anything that we've been through for the world. I love growing with you and everything we do together makes me so happy. I can honestly say you have changed my life in a way I really didn't think was possible. You are perfect, you are wonderful, and you are mine. I am the luckiest guy in the universe. I've never been more shocked by anyone in my entire life. Someone truly loves me in all of my moods and believes nothing could change that. One time, out of 10 years together, I peed the bed, couldn't find a bathroom in a dream, freak thing. I was completely mortified, but my so kept saying that it could have been him, that we didn't know who peed, it didn't matter. I was 99.9% sure it was me, but it was so sweet he tried to take the blame for it to make me feel less embarrassed. One time my ex and I were at a gas station. There was a little old white lady having a hard time pumping her gas. She was very old, very slow, tiny and fragile. Not to mention adorable. We were a few pumps away and he said he really wanted to help her. He was shy though because we were in such a rush. He didn't put a shirt on, he just came along to pump for me. He had a lot of tattoos and TBH intimidating looking. Hispanic tall male. I told him go for it if that's what he wanted to do. So he got out, went up to her, talked to her and started pumping for her. He was so kind to her and sweet. She thanked him and gave him a big hug. It was so nice to see. I took a picture of the scene, I couldn't help it. Just over 3 weeks ago we went away to a cottage for my birthday. On the actual day we went for a walk hoping to go to a pub for something to eat and have some drinks. It was like a half-hour walk. When we got there the pub was closed as was the one next to it, so we stopped at an off-license to get some alcohol and decided to walk back to the cottage we were staying at. I was wearing heels, wasn't prepared for walking, and my feet were killing me, so we stopped at a park and I took my shoes off for a bit. I had a blister, so he offered to give me a piggyback on the way back. When that failed he gave me his shoes to wear so I'd be more comfortable whilst he walked back barefoot, bless him. On one of our earliest dates I accidentally got entirely too drunk, had a problem, but now I'm over a year sober, and threw up in his car. I was expecting him to get upset or think less of me, but he got me safely to bed and rubbed my back and told me embarrassing stories about himself so I wouldn't feel so embarrassed about it. It really put me at ease around him. Celebrating 2 years married at the end of the month. I have lots of wholesome stories, but this one really gave me an idea of how great he is. He was so excited to give me my Christmas present one year he gave it to me 2 days early, as soon as he bought it. Ugh, I might cry just typing this. My grandparents live 6 hours away. I came back from holiday after missing mine and my partner's first dating anniversary, holiday be expensive and booked 1.5 years prior. The plan was we get together the first weekend back to celebrate. I get home after no phone service and find out that my grandma at 91 has had to go back to hospital due to her bone cancer, which I knew about, and that my granddad at 93 has decided to refuse treatment for his blood cancer, which I did not know about. I was in pieces. I asked my partner if they would come with my parents and I to see them, and the answer was an immediate yes. Had to book a very expensive hotel and decided to make a weekend of it and visit the city and Christmas markets. So, when we got there my grandmother was home, but had fallen again and was on the floor with a paramedic. I was in shock, she was so pale. She went to hospital that day and my partner and I left the house as things were understandably in turmoil, and after having some dinner we went to the hotel room, and that night my partner just held me and comforted me whilst I cried. The next day my grandmother was back in her home, and we saw her over lunch. She looked so much better, and we all had a jolly long chat about work and life and what we'd gotten up to. My partner got on so well, and my grandparents loved them. I was so relieved. It came time to drive back and I managed to hold my crying until we waved goodbye and drove away. Midway driving back I said to my partner, oh no. I wish I had taken some pictures of my grandparents. Or of me with them. I don't know when I will next get the chance to see them again. My partner shows me their phone. They remembered me saying on the drive up that I wanted pictures, and it turns out that whilst I was sat with my grandparents my partner had been taking different pictures. I was so grateful for that considerate gesture. They did the same recently when I managed to visit, and we will be reaching 2 years together. We were out to dinner one night and he was giddy with excitement. I asked what was up and he blurted out, I bought you a ring today. Then slapped his hand over his mouth and said, forget I said that, so we went on like nothing had happened and he acted like a happy fool all night. It was so sweet. He proposed a week later when the ring came in, and while his proposal was lovely, it wasn't as sweet as that night in the restaurant. We've been married 20 years now and had a million more wholesome moments, but that one always makes me smile. My boyfriend is pretty much amazeballs all the time. But most recently, I had minor surgery yesterday under general anesthesia. My boyfriend took me there and picked me up, then went to the store to get the ingredients for homemade chicken noodle soup, and while he was there he picked up some gummy bears for my kids. Then we snuggled. For the record, he makes excellent chicken noodle soup and is a world-class snuggler. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning to find he's messaged me randomly throughout the night just to tell me how much he loves me. We're both night owls, but I have to go to bed earlier now with working early, but it's always a long paragraph and always makes my morning. He just says how much he appreciates me, and how happy I make him. Before we started dating I didn't think he was the kind of person to do that, but now we're together I have realized he's just a big fluffy marshmallow. That or one time I told him it was my dream to own sheep someday, I think they're the most wonderful little animals, and when I was younger I was convinced I was going to marry a farmer and raise animals. A few days later we were chatting in his room and he just very randomly handed me this stuffed toy sheep because he had seen it online and though it was cute. I vaguely remember him saying he needed to hit a certain amount to get free shipping, but I don't think that was the real reason he picked it up. When he sang me to sleep BC, I was really sad/upset about how toxic my family's situation was and realizing how one-sided some of my friendships were. It was an incredibly difficult time for me BC, how bad my family's situation was, and then on top of that having it hit me in the face that my friends were taking so much more than they gave. They didn't help me through that time and it hurt. They didn't put much effort in checking on me or trying to understand how I felt. Baked me a whole batch of cupcakes on his own before coming over to see me after I'd had a rough day. Seems like such a small thing, but thinking about him running around the kitchen making buns to put in a lunchbox to bring over to me makes my heart melt. My boyfriend was going on a trip to visit family and I was unable to go and sad about it. So he decided to order little gifts from Amazon to be delivered each day he was gone. The thought and effort he put into timing everything just right was the sweetest thing. Early in our relationship I was in the final steps of getting over my eating disorder. He noticed I was sucking in my stomach and he just kissed my stomach and told me that I'm perfect. Still makes me so thankful to this day. When we were first dating, he was playing a city building game called Cities Skylines, and I was interested in playing it with him, so we built a town together. One day when I came over to his house, he'd built a bunch of streets to spell out hello my name, and then when I zoomed in, the street names had a secret message basically saying how happy he was that we were together. I think I cried. I work really weird hours at a call center, but since COVID I've been working from home. I work late into the night most of the time, so I often miss when my friends go to, socially distant, dinner and stuff. Every single time I have to miss it, my boyfriend will bring me a little something to eat at my desk. If they went to dinner, he'll bring me another meal. Once he went with our roommate to drop roommate's daughter off at her mom's house a couple hours away, and he brought me a shake that they got on S-Stop on the way home. It's seriously the simplest thing, but it makes me feel so loved. We went on a really random, long, walk and at the end of it, he turned to me and said, I love how we never run out of things to talk about. I love just talking to you. I think about that almost every day. It was so sweet, and it was like he read my mind. Not exactly what he says, but almost any time I look at him he gets a really goofy smile and says, oh hey there. We've been together almost 3 years and quarantined together for almost 7 months and he still does this several times a day. I said, I'm consistent, just not all the time. And it really had to be pointed out to me. I've never been good at picking up and cleaning. I'm untidy, it's true. Before we married, my parents had me and So over for a long weekend. They were teasing he and I about my sloppy ways, saying, are you sure you want to marry such a messy spouse? My So just smiled and said, my name is a parade. And yeah, after a parade there's a lot of confetti and whatnot around, but I don't mind it. I'm just glad I got to be near it and watch it go by. She's not a mess, she's a parade. My mom and I both teared up. My dad knew he was gonna be a good So after that. 10 years and 2 kids later, we're still together and totally in love. He messaged me, you and /our puppy / are both like bunny twins in my eyes. He's basically saying that we are as cute as little bunnies. He adores our dog probably more than any person besides me, so it's a pretty big compliment, lol. I have a rare neurodegenerative pain disease. I used to also be the primary breadwinner. When I got so sick to work, he took care of me and our 2 kids, one his stepson. I developed suicidal depression and PTSD. He saved my life more times than I remember. Once, I had a panic attack in the middle of a foreign airport. I hauled off and backhanded him. He was surrounded by men in uniforms and machine guns. He was able to handle me, get out the DR's letters, translate and calm the freaked out men out. They ended up having to sedate me to get me to calm down. He's never lauded it over my head or made me feel ashamed about it. On top of all that, he left his country and huge, tight-knit family to live with me here in the US. He didn't speak a word of English when he got here, but has managed to learn it as his fourth language, and has agreed to stay here, crazy politics and all, because he is 100% committed to being a father. I simply can't love this guy enough. I'm scared of deep water and can't swim. We went to Greece once, hired a little boat and went exploring. He kept diving in, swimming around in the clear water with fish everywhere, and I got very down that I couldn't join him. So he gave me his goggles, and told me to climb down the ladder and keep hold of it when I got into the water. He then held onto me to make me feel more comfortable, and told me to put my head under to have a look at the fish. It was such a sweet moment, and felt that he cares for me so much, and I'll remember that day forever. He talks in his sleep pretty frequently and I often hear, "My name, I love you." Related story. The very first time I said I love you to him, I said it when he was asleep so I could work up the courage to say it when he was awake. We were cuddling and in his sleep, he hugged me, kissed my forehead and said I love you too. He has no recollection of any of these events. A small theater in my city shows Studio Ghibli movies every once in a while. I had always been interested in them, but I wanted the theater experience, not just watching them on my PC. Anyways, the theater is hosting Spirited Away one night and I told my boyfriend how badly I wanted to go. He responded and said, "Oh yeah, I wanna go." Which had caught me off guard because he's not into any anime/animated films. So I was shocked and asked if he had heard of it before. He replied, "No, but you're really interested, so I'm interested." It was something small that meant a lot to me, and we both loved the film. When we first started dating, we were both RAs in different buildings on campus. My building was not even a 2-minute walk from his, so you could see my room from his. When I was studying for an exam, sometimes I'd look up and see an encouraging note in his window like something straight out of a Taylor Swift music video. When I was pregnant with our first kid, I was talking to my husband while I was eating an apple. Out of nowhere, I suddenly had to puke my guts out, so I raced to the bathroom and immediately started vomiting. My husband had no clue what to do, and the entire time I was puking he kept peering around the corner at me trying to figure out how to help. I kept seeing him pass by the bathroom door looking at me. At one point, while I was still puking, he offered me a glass of water. It was just really sweet because I could tell he wanted to help so much, but he had absolutely no idea what to do. On a related note, when I was in labor, he was the same way. He kept telling me to take sips of water every 5 minutes, and then while I was pushing he was saying things like, "Oh, that was such a good push, way to go," even though I know he had no idea what he was talking about. This probably will get lost, but here goes. My GF is fan of today's music, listens to Ariana Grande, Billie Eilish, Lil Nas and stuff all the time. Not a fan of metal like me, she dislikes it thoroughly. Just a few hours ago I was working on my laptop and she's on her phone and I had Raining Blood playing on speaker. I looked up to see what's she doing and she's lost in her phone, head banging with the drum and guitar, not full metal style but still a little bit. We've been fighting recently for dumb things, but seeing this, I literally jumped on top of her and kissed her for a whole minute. It felt good. When my now BF and I were first talking, he once said to me, "Do you like pie? I want to make you a pie." I just thought it was so cute, and eventually he did make me a pie. It's not stupid if you like it. I spent my whole life being self-conscious and second-guessing myself about everything I said or did, and this was the first time I can remember feeling like I was good enough. We got married last weekend, outside with 2 witnesses as our only guests. My mom passed away 5 years ago and I've struggled with it. She was my best friend, and knowing she wouldn't be there on our special day or get to meet him has been a struggle. Last Wednesday he gave me a charm with a picture of her and the quote, "Always with you," on the back to put on my bouquet. It was the most thoughtful gift I have ever received. I didn't even know there were such things. I cried and he held me. He's the best. Boyfriend has been living with his grandma since we started dating 7 years ago. I got into a graduate program this March and he decided he wanted to help support me, so we moved in together. I quit my job a few months ago. I am using my loan money to live off of, but he has been super supportive, financially, cooking dinners when I have class, taking cats to the vet. It's the most loved I've ever felt. When my now husband asked me out on our first date, I decided to be brutally honest with him. I told him I had a severe anxiety disorder and depression. When he learned that, he thanked me but said it didn't matter, and he still wanted to see me. Now, even through all of the pain and illness, he has been by my side doing everything he can to make sure I know I'm loved. I had a rough time discussing a sexual assault that happened in my late teens. I never got therapy for it, but it impacted my self-esteem for years. I was trying to explain the event and its impact, and couldn't. After I explained as best I could, he asked if I wanted to go sit in my closet. It's big and I isolate in there when I'm really stressed, though I always try to do so when he's not around, because what kind of adult sits in a fort in the closet? He brought blankets, pillows, my iPad, and cookies, and sat watching SpongeBob with me. The year I met my now husband was a disaster professionally for me. Work was beyond stressful and busy, and I had an insane schedule. He'd pack me breakfast, lunch, 2 snacks, and sometimes dinner if he thought I wouldn't make it home in time for dinner. He'd always leave a note in there for me. In the mornings he'd run out and start my car so it'd be warm, and then when I switched to leaving at 2:30 a.m., he got a remote start put in my car so it'd still be warm. When he broke his lease early to move in with me, on the paperwork under reason for breaking the lease he put for love. He brought little gifts for my parents and my grandma the first time he met them. It was so sweet and unexpected. He earned some points with them, for sure, and I'm pretty certain my 89-year-old grandma has a crush on him. We're both PhD students, and I've been suffering from depression. He's been having a really hard time understanding that I want to get out of bed and do my research and answer my emails, but sometimes I just can't find the energy. It's not that my passion is gone, it's just inaccessible as a source of energy at the moment, you know? Anyways, he bought us a present yesterday, a comic book from the perspective of a depressed student. He said that he really wants to understand what I am going through so that he can best support me. Guys, my boy is working 14+ hours a day on his mountain of research code and coursework, and he found time to make supporting and understanding me a priority. I love him so much. I'm keeping him. I started telling a story to my girlfriend once and partway through realized I might have told this one before, which is something I do a lot, thanks ADHD. Anyway, I stopped and was like, oh, have I told this story already? And she said maybe, but I was gonna let you tell it again. It meant a lot considering how many times I've heard you've already said that, like 3 times.